Meet the Sampson family, Mark and his wife Sam, and their 2 teenage children, Ruby and Zola. They're at an outdoor show near Cape Town to create awareness about climate change. They've driven 47,000 kilometers through Africa in their green truck fueled by recycled vegetable oil.
Yeah, we start on diesel, but we drive all day just on pure vegetable. End of the day, you flush it with diesel again. So everything is eco-friendly. We're doing it for climate change awareness.
Mark is a stand-up comedian and has performed his shows on climate change in theatres and festivals across South Africa.
I'm a warrior!
10 years ago, I was doing a show about climate change, and that research got me pretty depressed. And I thought, well, I'm frustrated. What can I do? I've got a big mouth. Let's see if I can get some awareness for the effects of climate change on Africa. Get in the truck, run it on cooking oil, make it a carbon-neutral vehicle, and also show my kids a better value system.
You know, in our family, we have a very clear sense of you have to seize the day. I have a chronic illness. I don't have infinite amounts of energy any more than the planet does. We felt the time pressure grades clockwise because we need to wise up and take cognizance of the fact we don't have time.
Sam is a writer. She has suffered from myalgic encephalomyelitis or chronic fatigue syndrome since her early 20s. So planning to travel through Africa with a bed on board was not so much a brave choice as a practical solution to a deteriorating health.
We said the year Mark turned 40, we were going to set off. And then he got to 40, we realised we hadn't started. So it was like, OK, you've got to take that first step.
They found a 1978 Mercedes-Benz truck, modified the diesel engine to run on recycled waste vegetable oil, and, with the help of some carpenters, turned the inside into a fully functional mobile home. By going off the grid and living in a truck, they would cut their expenses to a quarter, and rental income from their house in Noordhoek would be used to cover their living costs.
Welcome to the big green truck. This is the master bedroom, and here is the ensuite.
All our power in this truck is supplied by solar energy. This Victron monitor tells us exactly what's happening.
Clean drinking water is a scarce commodity in some parts of Africa, so Mark installed an onboard water purification system.
Storage of water in here.
So, Mark, what is this contraption?
It's an oil filter system. Basically, when you get it, it's dirty and burnt.
Yes.
And when you've finished filtering it, it looks like new oil again. So we use it in the engine and not in people's stomachs, because people all over Africa are getting stomach cancer.
When cooking oil is repeatedly reheated, it becomes carcinogenic and could cause cancer. Street vendors across Africa use reheated oil, which is hazardous to their health.
So it's not just about alternative energy and a different way of thinking about recycling and using energy. It's a good health initiative.
Okay, goodbye!
It took the family 3 years to prepare for the trip. In July 2013, they said goodbye to Cape Town. The plan was to travel up the west coast of Africa, cross briefly into Europe to avoid the politically unstable Algeria and Libya, and then drive back from Egypt down the east coast of Africa. Ruby was 11 and Zola 9 at the time.
What were you thinking? What were you expecting?
2 years around Africa was just being away from school. I was afraid because I was going to be away from my friends that I had made, but, you know, I was excited.
I loved being in the truck more than I did at home. I felt really, like, safe in the truck. All in all, it was the best experience of my life, and I wouldn't change it for anything.
In which of those countries did you start seeing the immediate effects of climate change, of what we're doing to basically destroy Mother Nature?
We drove into Namibia, and they were having such a terrible drought. The herdsmen, we stopped to talk to them. We were asking why. We saw these trees with all this cardboard hanging from the trees, and we thought it was a recycling plant or something. We were interested. We wanted to try, and they said, no, no, that's feed for the cattle. So they soak the cardboard in brine, and then they feed it to the cattle. So the cattle think they are eating something. When we got into Angola, the drought was worse. We couldn't get water anywhere.
Ruby discovered children like her living in absolute poverty. It is estimated that hundreds of millions of people in Africa do not have access to safe drinking water due to poverty.
The first bad thing that I truly became aware of was climate change. Seeing the drought in Namibia, but not only the bad, also the good of how they're dealing with it.
Further up the coast, more signs of extreme weather were evident. Many roads were simply washed away. the Sampsons frequently got stuck in their big green truck. Often, it would break down. Once back on the road, finding vegetable oil was essential. Fortunately, running on reused cooking oil meant hotels and restaurants in cities everywhere had ample to give away. And in return for their generosity, Mark would put on a magic show to entertain the children.
Watch the cloth. It goes in my hand, yes?
The kindness has been incredible. This is Africa. Ubuntu, Umoja, on the ensemble, there's words for everything. The language of inclusion.
Mark and Zola are both keen surfers. They took advantage of the best surf in Africa while traveling along the coastal route.
Where were some of the biggest waves that you caught in?
Biggest?
Yeah.
Biggest was Liberia and Senegal. I love big waves.
Yeah.
Big waves are my companion,
Yeah.
shall we say.
Tropical diseases are rife in Africa. The whole family contracted malaria and typhoid and recovered. What they didn't foresee was being stuck in the middle of the Ebola virus epidemic when it broke out in Monrovia, the capital of Liberia. But they managed to evacuate just in time.
Were you ever in danger?
Nobody ever fired a shot. In 6 years, we had a couple of small incidents, and we always talked our way out of it.
There were many highlights. For Ruby, it was seeing the pyramids in Egypt. For Zola, swimming with a turtle in the Red Sea. And for the whole family, Christmas in Nigeria during the Calabar Carnival. By now, the family had been on the road for nearly 6 years. They were on the east coast driving towards Mozambique when one of the worst weather-related disasters in the southern hemisphere was imminent.
We broke down terribly in Malawi. And looking back, we were so lucky, because if we hadn't been stuck in that garage for all that time, we would have been on the coast of northern Mozambique in the period that those two cyclones hit within 5.5 weeks. And no two cyclones of that magnitude have ever hit Mozambique within that time period.
They recognized this disaster as just one more symptom of the effects of climate change.
When we left, we genuinely thought that we were going to prepare our children so that they could prepare their children for what was coming. But we didn't think that we would be seeing the effects of climate emergency in their lifetimes.
After 6.5 years, the Sampson family has returned home. Zola is preparing for a career at sea, studying at a maritime center. Ruby is pouring her passion for the environment into working with a climate activist group. Sam is writing a book about her travels and how she has coped with a chronic illness against all odds. Mark is planning new shows about climate change and to educate the youth on what everyone can do to make a difference.